Hi, it's Katrina! From the little-known civilization behind one of the world's earliest advanced societies to our search for extraterrestrial life, here are 8 of the biggest unsolved mysteries in the world. Number 8. The Void in the Great Pyramid. A few years ago, researchers studying the Great Pyramid of Giza discovered an empty space inside the pyramid. This void was about 30 meters long and was right above the Grand Gallery. The research program known as Scan Pyramids was established as a joint effort between Cairo University and the Heritage Innovation Preservation Institute in 2015. Using an imaging technique known as myography, scientists were able to find what they call a void or open room hidden in the pyramid above the pyramid's Grand Gallery. The scientists used several different devices that actually detect particles generated by the collision of cosmic rays with the Earth's atmosphere. The stones of the pyramid then absorb the particles hitting them. Scans from 3 different devices show there was a large open room or possibly several hidden rooms in a sequence. Considering this is the first new structure discovered in the pyramid since the 1800s, it could hold unimaginable treasures. However, this void has left many scientists skeptical. Some believe it may have been left as part of the building process. Perhaps it was an internal ramp to construct the top of the pyramid, or even for structural purposes. But who knows? Maybe there is a treasure there lost for all this time. For now, scientists don't want to risk damaging the monument while investigating the room. And without any clear entrances into the room, it may be a while before we know what's really hidden in there. Number 7. The Bronze Age Collapse. Shortly after 1200 BC, there was a sudden collapse of the late Bronze Age civilizations, and the world went into a dark period. Archaeologists and historians have been confused for a long time about what exactly caused this seemingly sudden event. What do you think happened? According to anthropologist Eric Klein of George Washington University, the societal downfall seems to have started with the invasion of Egypt in 1777 BC. The intruders were known only as the Sea Peoples, based on a wall relief in Ramses III's tomb. The story told in the picture says that Ramses III defeated the invading army, but ancient Egypt and its surrounding areas experienced an ensuing downslide. Various advanced cultures essentially fell like dominoes, including the Egyptians, Babylonians, Minoans, and Mycenaeans, advanced seafaring people for their time. Sites that once hosted powerful civilizations bear signs of sudden violence and abandonment, and the apparent loss of languages, architecture, settlement patterns, and art. The Hittite capital of Hattusa was burned to the ground and left behind. Meanwhile, coastal cities like Gaza and Canaan were leveled. So why all the destruction, especially out of nowhere? It's most likely a series of unfortunate events that are responsible. One probable reason for the collapse is that all these ancient societies were interconnected. They depended on one another for trade, especially when it came to acquiring tin and copper for manufacturing bronze, hence being the Bronze Age, and for other economic purposes. From that angle, the domino effect makes sense. In 2015, researchers conducted a pollen analysis on a sample from the Galilee Sea that showed that the driest Bronze and Iron Age years were between 1250 and 1100 BC, when all those civilizations fell apart, indicating that drought may have been a critical component of their downfall. But a collapse of such magnitude, according to Klein, still needed the perfect combination of factors, or in his words, a perfect storm of events, and cannot simply be explained away by the ones I just told you about. While researchers are still conflicted and unsure regarding the recipe of events that conjured up this so-called perfect storm, some have warned that it could certainly happen again, and for modern-day humanity not to get too comfortable or complacent. Coronavirus, anyone? Number 6. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Ancient writers told of an oasis of lush greenery at the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which would have likely been located in the arid environment of modern-day Iraq. The Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar II reportedly built the 75-foot-high terraces, which cascaded with luxurious foliage and exotic herbs and flowers during the 6th century BC as a gift to his wife. Nice gift, huh? Some writers referred to the gardens as a wonder of the world. Philo of Byzantium wrote around 250 BC that they had plants cultivated at a height above ground level, and the roots of the trees are embedded in the upper terrace rather than in the earth. Yet it's unclear when the Hanging Gardens were built, or if they even truly existed. Archaeologists have found no evidence of them despite spending decades excavating Babylon. Plus, no first-hand accounts are known to exist. There are only second-hand reports, which were written after the gardens were allegedly destroyed. In 2013, University of Oxford researcher Stephanie Daly proposed that the gardens were real, but located in the Assyrian city of Nineveh, roughly 300 miles from Babylon. She further asserted that Nebuchadnezzar II's rival, the Assyrian king Sennacherib, built the gardens during the early 7th century BC. One thing's for certain, if the Hanging Gardens of Babylon did exist, an engineering feat would have been required to keep them watered and healthy in the dry desert atmosphere. Daly's theory is not only backed up by ancient Mesopotamian texts, but also by unearthed evidence of a sophisticated aqueduct system at the site where she believes the gardens were located. Unfortunately, this mystery will probably never be solved, as wars and looting have extensively damaged both Babylon and Nineveh, especially over the last several decades. Do you think these gardens ever existed? Let me know in the comments below. And now for number 5. But first, have you subscribed yet? If not, be sure to hit that button and the bell so you don't miss out on more videos like these. Number 5. Mohenjo-Daro. The ancient Indus River Valley civilization at Mohenjo-Daro in modern-day southern Pakistan emerged around 4,500 years ago, during the 3rd millennium BC. The nearly 500-acre city contained a sophisticated drainage system and well-organized street grid. However, Indus expert Gregory Postle of the University of Pennsylvania said that otherwise, it's pretty faceless. In other words, little to nothing is known about Mohenjo-Daro's former occupants, despite it being one of the earliest known urban centers in human history and both the largest and best-preserved city of the Indus civilization. Archaeologists first visited the site in 1911 and began excavating a decade later. Mohenjo-Daro contained a 900-square-foot pool fed with water from the Indus River called the Great Bath. Houses also had advanced plumbing, with baths and toilets that were far ahead of their time, and the town had a sewage system and 700 freshwater wells. Palaces, temples, royal tombs, and other places of worship and governance are conspicuously lacking at Mohenjo-Daro, indicating that unlike other societies at the time, like the Egyptians and Mesopotamians, the city may not have been built around state interests. An estimated 20,000 to 40,000 people lived within Mohenjo-Daro. The city mysteriously collapsed after 600 years, and nobody knows why. Possible causes include a violent invasion or a change of the Indus River itself, which would have prompted citizens to relocate primarily for agricultural reasons. Number 4. William Shakespeare. You already know that William Shakespeare was a playwriting genius and poet. His works are historically and culturally significant. He lived in the 16th century and lived in London before returning to his childhood home of Stratford-upon-Avon. But some academics believe that William Shakespeare did not actually write all of these works that we think he did. To be clear, no one is doubting that he actually existed, but that he himself did not write them. Why is that? This is because certain elements of Shakespeare's works, like the use of French and knowledge of things like other countries, court affairs, and complex legal and political matters, conflict with core components of his modest identity. Additionally, the man's life conspicuously lacks official documentation, aside from a handful of signatures, as well as marriage and birth records. Oddly, none of the paperwork regarding Shakespeare relates to his 37 plays and 154 sonnets. This absence of proof of ownership of his work, along with his humble beginnings, has prompted many to wonder if Shakespeare's work was even his to begin with. Some of history's most famous names, including Sigmund Freud, Mark Twain, Helen Keller, Charlie Chaplin, and Henry James, have questioned the playwright's true identity. So if Shakespeare wasn't, well, Shakespeare, then who was? Was it several people? Did he maybe hire people to help him with certain things? Actually, the 17th Earl of Oxford, Edward de Vere, is the most favored candidate. He traveled to all the places mentioned in Shakespeare's plays and was a highly educated, trained lawyer, making him more qualified as a playwright at first glance than the simple man from the countryside. People who support this theory, known as Oxfordians, argue that he may have concealed his identity due to the politically provocative nature of the plays, and because of the apparent shame that may have come along with a career in playwriting. What do you think? Was it Shakespeare? Was it someone else? Or several people? Maybe he was a spy? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Number 3. The Mary Celeste. Here we go! What happened to the ship the Mary Celeste? The American merchant ship Mary Celeste set sail from New York City on November 7, 1872 for Genoa, Italy, with 7 crewmen, Captain Arthur Briggs, and his wife and toddler daughter aboard. Less than a month later, crew members of the British Dei Gratia spotted the Mary Celeste in choppy waters about 400 miles east of the Azores. Dei Gratia's captain, David Morehouse, was confused by the sight, as the Mary Celeste departed New York 8 days earlier than his ship and should have already reached her destination. He changed course to offer help to the drifting vessel, only to discover that it was empty. The crew members' belongings were still on board, along with a 6-month food and water supply, and the cargo supply was intact. There was 3.5 feet of water in the ship's bottom, and the only lifeboat was gone. So what happened to Mary Celeste's crew? Nobody knows for sure. Over the years, theories have suggested that they suffered at the hands of a vengeful former slave, homicidal sailor, sea monster, pirates, or even a dangerous waterspout. But the vessel was in remarkably good condition and well supplied, ruling out both natural disasters and looters, as well as any seemingly valid reason for Briggs to order the crew to abandon ship. Foul play on behalf of Dei Gratia's crew may have been involved. The crewmen who discovered the Mary Celeste were entitled to salvage compensation, but only received 1/6 of the $46,000 that the ship was insured for, suggesting that the authorities were unconvinced of their innocence. A 2007 investigation revealed that the Mary Celeste had recently been refitted, and debris may have damaged the pumps. Unable to visually measure how much water was in the hull, and also possibly after mistakenly navigating off course but having sighted land, Briggs may have ordered the crew to abandon the Mary Celeste after all. But what happened? We don't know. Number 2. Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart was one of history's most famous pilots for her achievements as both an aviator and as a woman. She and her navigator, Fred Noonan, disappeared over the western Pacific Ocean in 1937 during an attempt to circumnavigate the globe, and searches for her started less than an hour after her final radio transmission. Ever since, explorers have continued searching for her downed plane to no avail. While Earhart's likelihood of survival was next to minimal, her fate ultimately remains a mystery. Some people even believe she's already been found, but not identified. In 1940, someone discovered a woman's remains on Gardner Island in Kiribati, along with a navigational sextant and remnants of a campfire. A subsequent analysis determined that the body belonged to a Caucasian woman, most likely of Northern European descent. Given Earhart's location when she vanished, it makes sense that she may have ended up in Kiribati, but these results have been debated, and the identity of the remains is considered unknown. Since 2001, other expeditions have been carried out in the region, and more signs of a woman's presence around the time of Earhart's disappearance have appeared. One theory, based on an old photograph known as the Bevington image, which appears to show landing gear consistent with Earhart's plane, indicates that she may have gone down on or near the island of Nikumaroro in Kiribati. In 2017, a History Channel documentary shared the discovery of a mysterious photo that seems to show Amelia sitting on a dock with her back turned to us, but it was determined that the photo was taken 2 years before her disappearance. Questions remain, and the absence of closure is not for lack of resources. Last year, famed explorer Dr. Robert Ballard led a multi-million-dollar sea, land, and air search in hopes of finally solving the 80-year-old mystery. But the search did not procure even a morsel of Earhart's Lockheed Electra airplane. Despite this, Ballard refused to write the search off as a failure, because at the very least it eliminates the region as the plane's possible location. This plane exists, Dr. Ballard told the New York Times in September 2019. It's not the Loch Ness Monster, and it's going to be found. Number 1. Where are the aliens? The hunt for alien life was summed up in the 1950s by physicist Enrico Fermi, one of the designers of the atomic bomb, when he proposed what is known as the Fermi paradox. It states that there are billions of stars in the universe similar to our sun. These stars have a very high probability of having planets orbiting around them that are similar to our own Earth. If this is likely, then there's a high chance that intelligent life has also developed there. So why haven't we discovered evidence of it yet? The paradox is that even though statistically it is likely that there is extraterrestrial intelligence, there is no evidence. Some equations suggest that there should be as many as 20 civilizations living in our galactic neighborhood, but rather than reaching out to us, maybe they are purposefully keeping quiet. But why would they do this? According to the dark forest theory, all life forms want to stay alive, and there is no way to know if other life forms will destroy you if they get the chance, so the best option is to avoid them altogether. Other theories are that perhaps civilizations on other planets have already died out, that haven't evolved yet, or perhaps we just haven't been looking long enough. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching! Would you like to learn about more of history's greatest mysteries? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye!